Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I am going to be talking about democracy. Sometimes we wonder what democracy is, or even how democracy started in the US. Well, I have some news for you. Because today we'll be talking about history behind democracy, the several types of democracy, what democracy is like today in the United States, and what challenges we face today in democracy. Let's go back a little bit. The history of democracy is complex for various reasons. Let us go into these reasons now. Democracy started off in ancient Greece, even creating politics around other people's needs and other cultures. The Greeks, particularly in Athens, developed democracy not as a gift, but as a logical solution to governance, a system widely used by many countries today. Democracy started in Athens around the time of 600 BC. Thanks to Draco, he gave Athens its very first law code in history. Later, between c. 630 to 560 BC, in 560 BC, Solon modified the law code. Draco categorized the Athenian citizen classes by abundance. Athens used something called a democratic government. Unlike today, we use a slightly different system. This is just a tiny part of where and when democracy starts. So let us go into several types of democracy. There are 7 types of democracy, which are direct, representative, participatory, liberal, pluralist, constitutional, and socialist democracy. First up is direct democracy. Direct democracy is when laws and policies are decided directly by the people. They use ballots to get each vote in. Now we have is representative democracy. Representative democracy is when citizens elect officials make decisions on their behalf, which is the most shared form today. The third type of democracy is participatory democracy. Participatory democracy is when citizens directly influence policies, often through grassroots movements, encouraging higher citizen involvement. Representative and participatory democracies are similar. However, it is what the citizens do that makes these two different. The next type of democracy is liberal democracy. Liberal democracy is when you emphasize individual rights and freedoms within a representative framework. The fifth type of democracy is pluralist democracy. Pluralist democracy is when it is influenced by the spread of various interest groups rather than a single elite promoting diversity of viewpoints. Next up is constitutional democracy. Constitutional democracy is based on a constitution that limits government powers and shows structures like the separation of powers and federalism. The last type of democracy is socialist democracy. Socialist democracy combines socialist academic principles with democratic government. For example, they have this type of democracy in Sweden. Since I went over the types of democracy, now it is time to go into what challenges we face today in democracy, particularly in the United States. What is democracy like today in the United States? So let us start off with the types of democratic parties in the United States. So we have two diverse types of parties in the US, which are the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, which you may have heard about in debates between the Democratic side and the Republican side. Let us talk a little bit about the Democratic Party. Back in the 19th century, the Democratic Party authorized slavery in this party. This party disliked the civil rights movement that happened during this time. These movements happened after the Civil War took place. The Democratic Party has a donkey logo standing for them. Now let us talk a little bit about the Republican Party. The Republicans stood against new territories being added to the United States, which became new states many years down the road. This party also stood against slavery. The Republicans did not want slavery to go on and wanted to put a stop to it. The elephant logo represents the Republican Party. There are a lot more things about the differences between the Republican and Democratic parties. However, I'm not going into much detail. Now let us go into the next thing, which is how democracy has changed over the years. Democracy has changed a lot from when democracy first started to where it is now. Democracy started in the U.S. Constitution and the signing of it to be freed from the United Kingdom's rule. The U.S. Constitution, like about the branches of democracy that they wanted to have at that time. Each section of the Constitution had said each of the different branches and what each branch's role that they had in the government. The last part of the Constitution talks about the Bill of Rights. For example, the termination of slavery, birthright, citizenship, and equal protection. The branches that they produced were the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Each branch has a crucial role. For example, the Senate is in the legislative branch, the president and vice president are part of the executive branch, and the judges are in the judicial branch. We still have these branches today. This democracy was not perfect because we still had to deal with things like women's voting rights and blacks' right to even vote today. For example, even though African Americans were free, they still were not allowed to vote until the 15th Amendment. This amendment said people were not allowed to deny any blacks from voting because it is not promoted anymore. Even though African Americans are allowed to vote now, if they have a criminal record, they won't be able to vote. This is the case in Georgia. Women were not allowed to vote until the 19th Amendment. States are not allowed to deny women the right to vote because of this amendment. Now let's move on to the issues that we face today with democracy. One of the major issues that we face today is skyrocketing gas prices and inflation. Let's talk about inflation first. Every year, I personally notice that inflation has been rising. If you have no idea what inflation is, it is the prices on things start to rise in prices such as food and clothing. The issue with this is that now people have a much more difficult time affording things they need to survive. So because some people don't have much money, they can't afford everyday needs. My last point is skyrocketing gas prices. This is a big problem, as you can imagine. Between the inflation that I just talked about and the skyrocketing gas prices, how does the government expect a normal person to only make minimum wage to keep up? Ever since President Biden went into office, the gas prices have started rising, and the United States has lost more money than it has poured in. So of course, everything had to rise to make up for it. Even though it is helpful that the minimum wage is going up, more work still needs to be done to improve the US government today. My conclusion from everything is that democracy has a long way from where it was back then. It is amazing where the US was when it was first freed to make the government from scratch, especially the different types of democracy that played a strong role in this government today. Even where democracy first came, which is cool. Also, the Democratic parties play a role in the United States government. After learning about democracy, it is far more complex than it meets the eye. Even the United States government is extremely complex. I am so glad to call the US home. I am going to put the links down in the description if you guys want to check out where I got all of the information. The links will be down below. So, bye guys. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. Bye guys!